Welcome to the Retirement Mentor Podcast, where we're going to be interviewing the best retirement mentors of our time. My name is Terrence McMahon. I spent 25 years as a financial professional, and I wanted to create a forum for those experts to be interviewed. Welcome to the Retirement Mentor. Today I have Adam Mcconathy. He is an insurance and financial professional that works exclusively with people that are either retired or approaching retirement. So welcome, Adam.
Thanks for having me, Terrence.
Good to have you as well. And, I invited you on here because we're getting a lot of questions about healthcare catastrophes and what to do, what to plan for in the unlikely, but possibly, as I talk to you, the likely event that something's going to happen in your life that's going to require you to get care after your working years. So let's talk a little bit about the type of people that you help. And, I'm going to ask you a few questions that I got from my audience about what to do about it.
All right, great.
Tell me a little bit about the type of clients that you help.
Well, they range in age. Typically, when we're talking about long-term care planning, about age 60 is where you really need to be making your plan. 65 is not too late, but for a couple of reasons. One, health problems start to really show themselves in your 60s, and also expense and underwriting. Once you reach about 65, that's a time where I feel like we need to have tried to get a plan put in place. I've written plans as old as 73, 74 years old. There's a little bit more maneuvering that we have to do from an asset based insuring plan versus just traditional insurance. But the questions that I'm getting, in that age range are a major concern is Alzheimer's. That seems to be the one illness that people bring up on a regular basis. And from a planning perspective, there is still a great deal of misunderstanding on what Medicare will and will not pay for. To put it simply, Medicare is not going to pay very much in way of long-term care. Medicaid does, but Medicaid means that you have spent your assets down to a point that you are considered poor with regard to national economic levels. So that's when Medicaid steps in. You have to have lost a lot of your assets.
So it's a confusing thing, Medicaid,
Very
Medicare, and you're talking about what I like is the plan. Talk about that process, almost like planning a trip. Like this is a trip of your life potentially with some
that's well put.
high level. It was a big potential detours. Talk about that plan, that journey.
Well, those detours or potholes can be pretty big and pretty damaging. And when you start looking at your plan, assets and health are really the determining factors. We start out with looking at self-insuring the risk, because if you don't have any insurance, that's what you're doing. You're bearing the full responsibility of the risk. And, if you have, $500,000 nest egg, that's a pretty tidy sum of money. And the majority of Americans do not have $500,000 in their nest egg. And when you start talking about retirement and supplementing Social Security income, which is a significant portion of most people's retirement income, paying for a long-term care stay can really eat that away. From a self-insurance standpoint, we have to take a look at the assets and see, are we comfortable being able to spend what it takes to pay for a long-term care stay? We also talk about statistics and percentages. From a statistical standpoint, it's a 50%, it's better actually, about 52, that you will have a long-term care need. There's that kind of potential. The majority of long-term care stays are going to be somewhere around 2 to 3 years. So that's a jumping off point, so to speak. We start looking at what it costs. If you're looking at just a semi-private room and full-on care, that can be somewhere around $7,000 a month on a national average right now.
Wow.
But bear in mind, if you're 60, the average admittance to a long-term care facility is going to be closer to 78 or maybe even 80. So we've got 20 years of increasing cost. So we have to plan for that as well. We don't want to buy what it costs now. We want to buy what it's going to cost in the future. So we have to take a look at that. And once we determine health, assets, and budget, we're able to come up with a plan that best meets our needs from a statistical standpoint as well as financial.
So it's realistically to come up with $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month on top of your ordinary living expenses is difficult to do.
Much, yeah.
And how long can the average person last if they don't plan?
Well, I mean, you can do simple math usually. If you've got $250,000 and your cost is going to be $7,000 a month, that doesn't take long. You're talking about 2 years and you're out of money. The other thing that is often missed when we're doing our planning is I've got $250,000 or $500,000. And you ask, where is it? Well, it's in my 401k or it's qualified assets. It's an IRA. Well, when you go to take that money out, you don't need 7, you need 10 because you're going to have to pay tax on the money. Uncle Sam does not care if you're using it for long-term care expenses or not. You're going to pay your taxes.
So you're basically covering your bets in some cases, having this plan. For people that are worried about it. My grandmother had Alzheimer's, and my mom's and my dad's dad both had Alzheimer's, and they both actually ended up in a facility. Yeah. And they both actually lived with us first, which was a nightmare. My mother's mother almost burnt our home down. Right after that, we had to put her in a facility, and it was expensive. But talk about the mistakes. Like, what's the big mistake people make? The biggest mistake or mistakes?
Not planning is obviously the very largest mistake they make, and a lot make that mistake. Then you have to determine if you do have the ability, like what you said with your grandmother. I had a similar experience with my great grandmother. She had Alzheimer's as well, and she lived in a home with my grandmother, and then moved to a facility. So not having a plan is very costly. If you have people around you that can help you, well, that helps me make a plan for you. You can use an insurance policy that has what's called an indemnity payout rather than reimbursement, where you get a check from the insurance company to spend on whatever it may be that you need. The benefits are triggered all very similar across the spectrum. There's 6 activities of daily living that they look at. Eating, bathing, transferring, continence. There's a couple of other ones that we go over. And if you can't satisfy 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, it usually triggers your benefit. If you have an indemnity plan, you can use that money to pay a daughter or a son or a family friend or even someone that you have a relationship with to just take care of you at home, which most people want to do. Most people don't want to end up in a facility, but as time drags on and people aren't able to be there 24/7, that's when people usually find themselves in a home. And that's why the stay is usually less. You're talking about 2 years in a nursing home, but you're right. You have to plan for that 4 or 5 or 6 years before you went to the nursing home to take care of that need. Life insurance with a long-term care or chronic illness rider has been a very popular policy to choose because most of them have indemnity features, and there is the 50-50 shot, right? I just said it's 52% chance that you'll need it. 48% means you won't. So you could pay long-term care insurance premiums and no one get the benefit. If you use the life insurance policy, it's essentially paying you your death benefit early for the use of long-term care. And if you don't need long-term care, then your loved ones or named beneficiary will receive the benefit that you paid for. So it's not a use it or lose it like traditional long-term care. But traditional long-term care does have a place. There are some tax deductions that you can gain if you do it the correct way. It also can protect against the Medicaid asset count. If you use a qualified plan, it's called a partnership, long-term care partnership. Every dollar that you have set aside for long-term care purposes is assets that you can keep. So if you've got a $500,000 payout, that's $500,000 in assets that they don't count against you for Medicaid. So it is a tangled web, and it's hard to cover in snippets, but it takes a good 30-minute to an hour-long conversation to figure out where we need to go first.
And you're running the simulations of if-then scenarios, like if I don't get sick. To your point with that other program, you have the money that stays in your family's life. But if you have long-term care and you don't get sick, it's like car insurance that you don't get in an accident, it's gone.
That's right.
So the key, I think, is, if I'm hearing you correctly, is design the plan that works for you. Talk about affordability for some people. I mean, a lot of people have a knee-jerk reaction to buying insurance or investing in things to cover this risk. Talk about that.
Sure. From a cost perspective, I use a rule of thumb of $500 a month or $6,000 a year as just it could be more or less, depends on your age and depends on your underwriting. And it also depends on the assets that you have that you are willing to allocate to long-term care. If you were able to earmark $100,000 for long-term care, we can work with that and be done. We can create a plan that has nice long-term care monthly benefits and even have a little bit of death benefit if you don't need it. But there's not a lot of people that are willing to throw a $100,000 or more lump sum at a problem that they may or may not have. From a monthly standpoint and planning on a budget, we have to look at what we can afford first and what our need is. And if we really just need to take care of a $200 or $300 a month event, from a budget standpoint, we may be buying just straight traditional long-term care insurance, and we may only be able to buy $2,000 or $3,000 a month. But guess what? That $2,000 or $3,000 a month is a lot better than having no money. And when you couple it with Social Security, that usually can get you close to what you need. And also it depends on family situation. If you have a spouse that you're going to need to leave money for, or if you don't want to erode what you guys have saved, there's always a plan to fit people, and if it's a budget constraint, we'll find the best path, and I'll be, very forthcoming and open with my clients. Hey, this isn't enough to take care of the whole need, but it's better than nothing. And this is what you can expect.
Right. Yeah. Because there's a powerful psychological belief that you won't get sick. Yes. Psychologists call that cognitive dissonance. There's a as you're saying, a 52% chance that you're going to get sick and need something. There's a 100% chance you're thinking about that. You're not thinking about that now. That's right. It's when your actions and your values are in conflict. The old saying is people don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. And the whole point of having you come on here is to have people have a conversation about the potential issues in their lives and on their journey, a pothole they could hit that will derail their entire journey in the retirement. The ripple effect is tremendous. How does someone get started talking to you about this?
Well, you just reach out, set an appointment, call. We can do it over the phone. We can do it over Zoom, just like we're doing here. I do in-person meetings, but with COVID, that's not happening as often. I still like to see people face to face. It's just the way it is. I'm a social guy, and down here in Southern Alabama, we like to see each other. So it's any way that you want to. I'm going to be as accessible as I can. You can even click on my calendar links and set an appointment. And if I have a vacancy, we'll certainly see each other over Zoom or over a phone call.
Fantastic. We're going to put your contact information in the notes below of our show, how to get a hold of you, your website, and your phone number. And Adam, I want to thank you for answering these questions for our guests. And I'm Adam Mcconathy with the Retirement Mentor.
All right, thanks.